In this video, I'm going to have a look at installing Windows Subsystem for Linux preview. Press Windows and R and type in appwiz.cpl and then select Turn Windows Features on or off. Check Windows Subsystem for Linux and select OK. It's going to search and download the required files, and then it's going to prompt for a restart. So this restart will take a while as Windows installs updates and additional features. Okay, so once you've logged back in, right-click the Start button and select Terminal Admin, and type in WSL and then -- list and then -- online. So this displays a list of online distributions that you can install. To install Ubuntu, for instance, type in WSL -- install -d and then Ubuntu. And this is going to install Ubuntu 22.04 long-term support. So Ubuntu is going to be added, and once you launch this, you're going to have another terminal window, and you're going to be prompted to configure a new username. So I'm just going to call my username Philip. And then you're going to be prompted to input a password and prompted to confirm the password. And then I'm just going to type in clear to clear the above. And now you see you've got Ubuntu in the start menu. And you see you've got Linux in File Explorer. So I can select Ubuntu, I can select home and then Philip. So this is the home directory that's indicated in the terminal using the squiggle. So if we type in ls, we're going to list all the files in the directory, the non-hidden files, and there's none. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make directories. So I'm going to make the default directories such as downloads, documents, pictures, music, and videos. And unfortunately, the File Explorer doesn't update, so we need to actually go in and refresh it. And when we do, we see that we've got these folders. We can type in ls in the terminal to also list the folders. So to change the directory, we use the cd command, and we can select home/documents. And if we type in touch myfile.txt, we're going to create this file. And if we refresh Explorer, we'll see this. So Nano is a terminal-based text editor. So if we type in Nano followed by the name of the file, we're going to open it in the Nano text-based editor. And we can use the arrow keys to navigate through the file, and we can just type in some text. So at the bottom of the text editor, there's a list of commands, and most of these begin with hat, and hat in this case indicates the control key. So Control and X will exit, for example. And when you exit, you're going to be asked whether you want to save the changes. So press Y to save the changes, press N to not save the changes, or press C to cancel and go back to the Nano terminal-based text editor. So you'll be asked for the name of the file, and if you just press enter, it's going to save over the file that was currently opened. So if I refresh the File Explorer and now just go and open this within Windows, I can see that the contents in the text file have now been updated. So instead of a text file, we can also create other file types, such as a script file or a shell file. So once again, we're going to create it using touch, and we're going to modify it using Nano. So this is just going to use a echo command followed by a string, and then I'm going to press Ctrl and X and Y and then enter to save the file, and I can run it as a bash script by using the command bash followed by the script name. So now I'm going to create a Python script file, and I've actually just made a typo. So I'll just remove the file that I created, and I'll go ahead and recreate the Python script file. Once again, I can open this in the nano text editor, and this time I'm just going to type in Python's print hello world. Once again, press Ctrl and X to exit, and then press Y to confirm the changes, and then press Enter to save. So I can run this by typing in Python 3 and then the name of the script file. I can also type in Python 3 without a script file to run Python. So notice that the prompt changes to the Python prompt. That's the 3 arrows. So I can print hello, and to exit out of Python I need to use the exit function, and the prompt returns back to the bash prompt. So if I type in cd ... it's going to go up a directory, so it's going to take us from home/documents to home. Now if I go back to documents and type in cd ... it will actually just take me to the same directory. The move command can be used to move a file from an old location to a new location, and if you don't specify a file path for either location, it's just going to rename the file. The copy command can be used to copy the file, and once again, if you don't specify any location, it's going to copy the file within the folder the original file existed in. So if I type in cd ... that takes me to home, and what I'm going to do now is move to the root, so that's cd/. So if I have a look at this in File Explorer, this is going to be in the Ubuntu folder, and if I type in ls, you see that I've got these folders. Now if I attempt to create a file here, I'm going to get this permission denied. So what I need to do is type in sudo touch myfile.txt, which is essentially the Linux command for run as administrator. And when you type in sudo in the terminal, it will prompt you to input your password. So if I type in ls, it will now list myfile.txt here. Okay, so removing it's the same situation because the permission is denied. So we need to type in sudo remove myfile.txt in order to remove it. So in Linux, instead of having a registry editor, you essentially edit some protected files on the root directory. So if we go to this etc folder, we want to edit a configuration file which doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is change directory into root/etc. So if we type in cd/etc, and now we can type in sudo touch wsl.conf. So we're creating a config file. And then we want to edit this config file using the nano text editor. Once again, if I open this up with nano, I'm going to be informed that it's unwritable. So I'm just going to press Ctrl and X to exit. And then I'm going to use the same command as before, except prefix it with sudo to run it as a super user. So I'm going to add this boot entry, and it's going to have system D equals true. And then I need to restart the Windows Subsystem for Linux. So I need to open up a PowerShell terminal, and I'm going to type in wsl.exe -- shutdown. So it's going to shut down the Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I'm having to go and launch a new instance now. Okay, so what we want to now type in is system control list -unit -files, and then -- which equals service. So we're essentially wanting to see all the running services. And if I just press the down arrow key, I can scroll through this. So we should see a lot of the snapd services and the systemd services are running, and we're going to need these in order to install software. So if we type in apt, we get details about the advanced package tool. So we've got the list command, the search command, the install command, the remove command, the update command, and the upgrade command. So we're going to have a look at these, and we're going to have a look at installing some software. So let's type in apt list, and this is going to list all the software installed, including the operating system updates. We're going to now type in apt search, and we're going to search for Nautilus, which is the file manager used in Ubuntu. And we're going to type in apt install Nautilus. And because we're installing software, we need to do this as a super user, so we need to prefix this with sudo. So this will give us details about what we want to download. If we type in apt install -y Nautilus, it's going to automatically select this prompt. So there's an error message, and generally it's good practice to type in sudo apt update before installing any software, because this will update the operating system and the advanced package tool itself to make sure that it's accessing the latest repositories. So now that we've updated this, we can attempt to remove Nautilus, and we're informed that it's not installed. So let's go ahead and install it. So now the installation is successful. And if I go to all apps and under the Ubuntu folder, I should see files. So files is only going to be able to access the locations within this Ubuntu folder, and it will open in home by default. So I can go to documents. So one thing about files is because it's within Linux, it's basically going to update instantly instead of manually having to be refreshed like Windows File Explorer. So if I remove this file and recreate it, you see it disappeared and it reappeared within the Nautilus files. And we can also right-click a file and have a look at its properties and permissions. So permissions for a file can be changed in the terminal using the change modification, followed by the name of the file, and then you're going to have a one-letter string for the user, group, others, or all. I'm going to select user, and then you've got plus, minus, or equals to add, remove, or assign something to be the only permission. And then you've got read, write, or execute. So I'm going to select user minus write, so this will make it read only. And you notice the file now has the padlock. So if I attempt to edit this using nano, I'm informed that the file is now unwritable. So if I prefix this with sudo, I'm accessing it as a super user, and I'm informed that it's meant to be read-only, but I can essentially edit it as a super user. So I can change the permissions to have user plus write, which will give user write permissions. And now you see the padlock is gone. If I type in man followed by a command, I'm going to get the manual for the command, and it will give me details about these additional optional arguments. So there's also info, which gives even more detail. And in order to get out of this, type in Q. So let's now have a look at installing the genome editor. So this is essentially the notepad within Linux that's not part of the terminal. So once this is installed, it once again displays under the Ubuntu folder as text editor. So notice once again when we select open other documents, it's going to open in recent, which we can change to home and then select the documents folder. And let's just open this text file. And now let's just open the script files that we created. And the script files will have the syntax highlighting applied because this text editor recognizes these file extensions. Okay, so we've now got files within Linux and we've also got a text editor within Linux. Let's now have a look at installing a browser, and in this case we're going to install the Chromium browser. Now if I use the apt command here, it's going to use snap. So Ubuntu's changed the apt install command to be an alias for snap. So it's going to download the snap version of Chromium, and this installs fine. So now this is the Chromium browser installed within Ubuntu. So the windows of the applications installed within Linux unfortunately don't work very well with Windows 11 when it comes to resizing them. So you can't use AeroSnap and you can't use Windows 11 snap layouts. So the resizing is very basic and you essentially need to manually resize the window across the screen. Okay, so I've got Chromium browser installed within Ubuntu, and let's just open up a website that displays differently on Linux than it does in Windows. So if I go to download Windows 10, it's going to show me the direct download links to the ISOs on Linux because the Windows Media Creation Tool doesn't work on Linux. If I open this in Windows, notice that I'm being taken to this Windows 10 Media Creation Tool instead. So this can be used to check the behavior of different browsers on different operating systems. Let's now attempt to install Google Chrome. So Google Chrome for Ubuntu is available as a Debian package. So this is being downloaded in Chromium, and this is going to be downloaded in the downloads folder that was created earlier on. Okay, so if we right click it within files and try to open it, we are informed there's no package to actually install it. So what we want to do is install it using the command line. So if we change the directory to downloads and just right click the file and select rename and copy, we can type in sudo dpkg and then -i, and then we can press Ctrl Shift and V to paste. And this should go ahead and install the snap package. Now unfortunately there are some dependency issues, so we're prompted to go ahead and attempt to install these. So I will try to install these using the apt. So it's not actually managed to install this. However, at the bottom it says try apt-fix-broken install with no additional packages. So let me just try and install the other dependencies, and it shows the same error message. So let's now just attempt to use apt-fix-broken install, and it's going to go ahead and download some additional packages. And now I can attempt to reinstall Google Chrome using the Debian package. And it seems to install now. So now I also have Google Chrome installed within Ubuntu Linux. Okay, so now I've got some of the basics installed. I've got the Ubuntu operating system itself. I've got the Nautilus File Explorer. I've got the Genome text editor. And I've got two browsers, Chromium and Google Chrome, installed. What I'm going to try and install now is the software, and I'm going to try and install the Flatpak and FlatHub. So if I type in sudo apt install flatpak and then input my password and press Y in order to proceed, followed by sudo add apt repository ppa flatpak/stable, and then press enter, and then sudo apt update, and then sudo apt install flatpak, and then sudo apt install genome software plugin flatpak. Let me just fix this so it's actually installed. And then we want to type in sudo flatpak remote add --if--not--exists flathub, and then https://flathub.org/repo/flatpak-repo. So I've made a mistake here, I missed out flatpak. And I've made a mistake with the file path. So that last dot shouldn't be there. So let me just go ahead and remove that. Okay, so that should be Flatpak and FlatHub installed. And I just need to go back to Windows PowerShell and shut down the Windows Subsystem for Linux in the same way as before. And now I can go ahead and just relaunch it. So now the Software Center is installed, so I can attempt to use it to install some software. So one of the things is the application itself opens, but it doesn't seem to have any of the flatpaks added. Also, it's run as a standard user, and in order to install any software packages, they need to be run as a super user. So you're going to get an error message every time you attempt to install a software package. So for some reason it's not ran that time, so let me just try running it again. Okay, so this time it's ran, so I can select browse software, and the software catalog is being downloaded, and then in my case an error message displays at the top. So it seems that I can't actually install any software. So if I go to search, I can search for software. So if I search for only Office, I've got the desktop editors here. And to the top, the only install options are the Ubuntu Snap. And install doesn't work because authentication is required. So it's more useful just to look online for the snap install command because this works. So if we select install and copy and paste the command, remember it's Control Shift and V in order to paste in the terminal and Control Shift and C in order to copy in the terminal. Control and C will close down an infinite loop. So now the only Office desktop editors are installed. And they can be launched and they seem to be working okay. Let's now have a look for another software package such as GIMP. So let me just have a look for GIMP. So once again, only the snap packages are listed. And if I select install here, it's not going to be able to install GIMP. So we need to search for GIMP on this snap website to get the snap install command. Okay, for some reason that didn't copy. Control Shift and V, and now GIMP is being downloaded and installed. So I can just check to see if this program launches, and it does. So another software package that's used within Linux as a paint equivalent is called Color Paint. So I can have a look to see if Color Paint is available. And once again, it's only displaying here as a snap. So I can copy and paste a command in order to install this. And then I can just go ahead and launch this. So it's basically very simple version of Paint. So it's a bit rough around the edges compared to the Paint within Windows 11. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look at this software store now. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to try and attempt to run it as an administrator. So if you go to the Ubuntu folder and right click the application and select more and run as administrator, what it's actually going to do is run as an administrator in Windows. This isn't going to change its behavior within Linux. So if I do this, you'll notice no difference. Would be quite nice if Microsoft did actually make it possible to right click a program and select run as administrator, and then be prompted for the authentication in order to run it. What I can do is copy and paste the name of the application and then type in sudo to run the application. Now this seems to not run the application and I just get this infinite loop. So I needed to press Ctrl and C in order to exit this infinite loop. However, I can try this with some other applications such as the Genome Edit text editor. So if I type in sudo gedit, it seems to open fine as an administrator. And I seem to be able to use it to open and save files in restricted locations. Although error message does display in the terminal. So perhaps this wasn't a great example file. So that's just a quick overview of the Windows Subsystem for Linux preview. Bear in mind it is a preview, so hopefully Microsoft will address the issue with window snapping and the issue when it comes to running software as an administrator, and also make it a bit easier to install the software store and install software from the software store.